it's specified that
Of this. So, our topic today, this master says, what exactly is the subject matter we should clearly understand, and what is the benefit of the entire journey. This is what our master discusses. So, before we go, let us have a context of that. The context that we were talking about this war. So the context is totally different, and the 99% of the people are not aware of the context on which the war is fought. That is their problem. So what appears outside is false, but still we claim it as a true. So in the first stage, seeker gets the detail of the knowledge of the means to attain the goal. What are the means to attain the goal? Goal is twofold: end of suffering, and awakening to real nature, or we can say peace and happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. Knowledge of the means. Car is a mean to drive home and to drive to the workplace. So, what are the means? And mostly in the beginning, they are the external means. We have to find a room to practice all the physical yoga, breathing, etc. But gradually, those means are living in the mind. So it means the mind has to be clear to know these means. In Gita, it is mentioned that there are 20 means. And the first mean is that I have to get rid of this ego. I should have a non ego status all the time. We'll talk about it. So the first stage is that we should be very clear about the knowledge of the means to attain the goal. I should have a kindness in the mind. It does not mean that I should show the kindness outside. Beggar was blind. He was requesting for some dollars. He started crying when a person passed by. That man said, I don't have money. So that blind beggar said, I could see your wallet. This is what happens in our life. So that is how the ego works in our life. So we have to get rid of those effects of the ego. Unless we get rid of it, we cannot have those means which will help us to reach to that state. We'll talk in detail. So stage number 2, we should be very clear about the knowledge of the goal. I should think that when I wake up in the morning, I should not have any stress, struggle, suffering, duality, conflict. They should not touch me. They are not in my life. Is it possible? No. Health and the sickness are dynamic state, but health and sickness belongs to the body. reflected in the mind. So I should have a very clear understanding that I am not the body and the mind. And they will continue to come. Body health and the sickness will continue to be in the life all the time. After all, this body is now going to be 65. So what this body used to do at the age of 20, it cannot do at the age of 65. So should I accept it? When I do not accept, it is again because of the ego and the identification. So I should be very clear about the knowledge of the goal. Knowledge of the goal that I am the real self. Knowledge of the goal. Now see another example. We have such a wrong notion that this real self lives in the body all the time. And that idea, that wrong notion, keeps the ego intact. So I am not fully clear about the goal. That real self, which is a consciousness, is all pervading. Gita makes it very clear. The real self is, last time I think I covered, real self is eternal. Eternal means that it is not subjected and affected by the time. So that is the real self, which does not have a past, present, and the future. So what is happening to our mind? That is a very subtle layer of the ignorance. Oh, it means that it is timelessness. Yes, it is timelessness. So no, but tomorrow that customer is coming to me to pay my fees. What will I do? So that is the work of the false I. Let it continue. Let it continue. Means what? I see myself as one eternal consciousness. But the moment it comes to the world, at the transactional reality, I have to also go to the restroom. Awakened also has to go to the restroom, has to eat the food. So this is what the master is saying, that we should be very clear. So lot of misunderstanding and the wrong notion will totally be placed in a right order. So first, the real self is eternal. Second is that eternal means that it is beyond time. Now the real self is beyond the space, time, and the object. If the real self is object, it means it is changing. So if it is changing, then it comes under time. Then it is an object. And as long as it is an object, it is time bound. Then it cannot be eternal. It cannot be all pervading. So the third understanding comes because it is eternal, because it is not subjected by the time, space, and object, hence it is all pervading. So what is beyond the time, space, and object is known as the truth. Time does not affect the truth. Space does not affect the truth. Object does not affect the truth. We are two objects at present with reference to the body. So there is always a change continuously going on. So it will affect. So we have to understand clearly that this real self or the consciousness cannot be limited as an object. And that is why it is all pervading. So now understand, when it is all pervading, so whether it is living in the body or outside the body, it has nothing to do with the body. It is independent. Why it is independent and why it is not, body is not affected, why the real self is not affected by the body? Because that real self has a property of timelessness and all pervasiveness. Body is limited, constantly changing, they cannot mix up. Two things have dissimilar properties, have different properties, cannot come together. No, but every day I wake up in the morning, I feel I am the body. That is the superimposition. So we say that is the superimposition. So once we clearly understand, so what is superimposition? They do not mix up. It is superimposed, overlapping. And that is where the false I is created. Curtain, a superimposition. Waves on the water is superimposition. Mirage water is superimposition. The highway is running. I see highways, I know it by fact. But still when I drive my car, I see the highway is running behind me. It is a superimposition. The sense organ and the mind will continue to do it in order to exist at the physical, mental and emotional. But it does not mean that we are that. So that is the second stage. We should be very clear about the knowledge of the world. And the third understanding is that why I feel limited, why I feel a sense of insecurity, why I perform a particular act and I feel that I am dissatisfied. I prepare a plan, I prepare a project, and I'm just performing an action, and still I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. I feel a sense of limitedness. Why? This sense of limitedness, this sense of feeling insecurity, this sense of dissatisfaction, this sense of unhappiness is the property of the false I. So the greater and the deeper understanding of this false I will help us to get rid of this bondage and limitation. Bondage means ignorance, and bondage also means suffering. Bondage also means delusion. Bondage also means the false I. And everything is happening in the mind. Everything is happening in the mind. Just think, you meet a person and your mind gives a different projection, different idea, different perception, different knowledge, and then we are caught with that. Our situation, our relations, condition in the life, all are subjected by the time, and because of that, false I attaches to this and the bondage comes. So we have to understand clearly the bondage part of it. Fourth stage comes that how to reverse this process of bondage and limitation. How to reverse this process of the false I claiming I am the real I all the time. False I claiming that I am the real I have to reverse this process. So reversing this process is removing the ignorance. The entire journey of the Eastern wisdom is based on these four stages. Another way to understand. You see, initially we started understanding about the mind and the impure mind. And then we said it is a part of the delusion. Then we said we are not worthy of suffering. And if the mental maturity is there, I'm trying to explain it better. So when mental maturity, I say I live with the discernment and dispassion. I live with the viveka and vairagya. I can continue the inquiry in the state of the calmness. The first time, my mind, after listening again and again and again, there is a mental maturity, and I start recognizing what exactly is the individual self and what is the real self. Gita is very, very, very I would say, very particular. So, first few chapters it dedicates what is the individual self and what is the real self. Individual self, I have to do act, I have to think, I have to speak, I have to act. So we have to understand the individual self, the real self, and also not Eastern wisdom does not put a restriction what you do. It says how you do, and that is a part of the karma yoga. And the third part, it says that we have to continue our self effort in the journey of the self discovery. The highest level of self effort is Shravan Manan and Nididhyasana. The moment I find certain challenges, I should go down and continue doing the practice. I should never leave the practice until we reach to that state. What happens afterward, that we will see. So that is the first understanding. Now, once we understand this, we have clarity. Individual self, real self, karma yoga, self-effort. Now, in the rest few chapters of the Gita, it says then instead of individual self, we say what is the supreme self. Instead of karma yoga, we say let us absorb deeper into the meditation. Instead of the self-effort, we say let us receive the grace and the blessing. Now, because we have become a higher level of a seeker. So we are continuously in the mode of we receive, we experience, there is a blessing and there is a grace all the time. No, I didn't have a grace because, I don't have $1 billion. No, that is not a grace because it is a demand from your mind. So grace and the blessing comes only when this demand is gone from the mind. Why there is a demand? Because of the false I. So I'm still working from the individual self, and how can the grace will come? So that people do not understand clearly. So we have to be very clear. So now see that first line, individual self and the real self. Second line, comparison, supreme consciousness. What should be the third one? Is this individual self and or the real self is one with the supreme consciousness? Answer is yes. So we come back to the binary format. That is where this master started. So that is why this text is for the highest level of a seeker who understand this entire process. Now we have karma yoga. Yes, we will continue to. The moment we are outside, we think, speak, and act. Karma yoga is there. So we will go a little deeper into the karma yoga before we go further. And karma yoga is now, it is gone into upasana. Upasana means that I absorb into meditation. So what happens, your mind does not want to leave meditation. Whenever you find the time, you are regular. You become a monk, closing the door. For 2 hours, I am a monk. Your mind feels that there's a sense of total emptiness. You are absorbed there. So instead of a self-effort, now you see the grace and the blessing. So in the third level, oneness is experienced. Upasana is not there. Karma yoga is not there. Why? You experience constantly that upasana and the karma yoga is done by the body, breath, mind, intellect, and the ego. I have to do nothing. So self-effort and the grace and the blessing also merge together. The first time we experience that we are graced by the existence, the human birth, and I have fulfilled. That is briefly the summary of the entire. So now this master, having this context in the mind, now the master is saying that what is the benefit of oneness of the individual and the supreme self? What exactly is the benefit? So this master says that you have to keep in your mind. What is the benefit? So first he explains that total elimination of sorrow. That is one. And second benefit is that I am already awakened to the permanent peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. What are the misconceptions we have about end of total suffering and also awakening to ananda or the permanent peace? Do you see the contradiction? End of suffering means that I am suffering, this is the end, and I stop getting the suffering and I receive something. These are the twofold process. The benefit, two benefits of it. So what it means by the total freedom from the sorrow. Total and of the suffering, there is an emotional freedom, there is no emotional dependence, there is no intellectual paralysis, there is no intellectual fantasy living in the mind, because now I am totally away from the false and the delusion. That is the meaning of complete end of the sorrow. If we think that, my body has a diabetes and it will be done, yes, it can be. But then we have to move in a different direction. We accept gracefully the changes in the body because the body is aging. This woman, Terry, has been progressing very fast. Did you meet Terry when you came to States? No, you didn't meet. She has an extreme Parkinson. She attends group sessions. You know, Parkinson, your body starts moving, you cannot control it, and she is able to control it. And sometime it happens, she says, I don't want to speak, I want to remain in that state for a while. But at the same time, she is also a higher level of a seeker. So in the last session, she was saying that consciousness, you mean to say, is totally independent of the body, mind, intellect. And if it is totally independent, then I need not to worry about what is happening in the body. And when I reflect with this idea, the movement in the body stops. And it is she says in a group session, and it happens. Everyone watches that. So can we say that are we treating? No. We are bringing an end to the suffering. Whatever happens later, let it happen. We need not to worry about it. So she has to strike that point. Whatever is happening to the body, it is not happening to me. I should have a clarity. And then we will see what happened. Whether the brain has changed, whether the mind has changed, whether the movement has stopped, even though she says it has minimized. So when we talk of bringing an end to the suffering, we have to be very clear. And at the same time, we have also to be clear when we say that infinite, all infinite ananda. Ananda means, I normally translate as permanent happiness, peace. So this master says you are the highest level of a seeker. Only listening from the teacher is enough to be into that state of awakening. But if it is not happening, we follow reflection, contemplation, and the practice. Shravan, Manan, and Dhyan, you can say, or meditation. Pay attention what the master is saying here. He discusses that end of suffering and awakening to permanent peace and happiness, they comes as a package. They comes as a package. In the beginning, when you are a higher seeker, frequency, intensity of that suffering goes on reducing. You start feeling a sense of freedom. Now a thought which was causing you the trouble pertains to the relationship, now you are free from it. So there is a sense of emotional freedom also. Should I say yes? All problems of insecurity, fear, unhappiness, dissatisfaction is because of the duality in the mind. And because of that duality, it creates a delusion of likes and dislikes. I have achieved this, I have not achieved this. So, this master is helping us to understand that where there is a duality, what is the duality? Here I am, there you are, I and you, he and she, his house and my house, my body, physical body, subtle body, and the moment your mind picks up anything that expresses that is known as a duality, our suffering will continue, will begin. It will follow likes and dislikes, it will follow attachment and detachment, it will keep the false I all the time. That is where we are moving. Any duality. There are 7 stages of the duality, we will talk about it later. This master is going to talk about it. That the moment I see you are there and I am here, so I see the duality. Now the mind has already started the journey, our duality. Your face, your beard, my beard, your color, my color, your clothes, my clothes, your country, my country. And the mind automatically picks up the likes and dislikes by default. So the entire superimposition becomes so much strong. So the mind has already started its work. That level of ignorance we have to understand clearly and we have to get rid of it. So that any time you wake up in the morning, you wake up with the real self. You don't wake up with the world of duality. Now, how can I work? It will happen automatically. Natural. When you leave the bed, it happens naturally. You do not think, let me wake up and then I will go to the... No, it happens automatically. You go to the restroom, take your bath. Why? So there, that is why another model comes. It is known as the Prakriti. Prakriti means it is working through the 3 gunas. The 3 gunas, working of the 3 gunas has an I thought is known as ego. I'm giving another definition of the ego. Three gunas are constantly working, and they are matter. So the unmanifest matter with the three gunas is Prakriti or matter. But when that matter works with the I thought, it becomes the ego. So ego is basically the functioning of three gunas. So why we want satoguna? That makes me a seeker. I'm just giving all the context and then we will bring it together. So yes, satoguna, what the satoguna does, satoguna is always curious about the knowledge. It wants to be in peace. It wants to be in kindness. So knowledge of the means of the journey, that is why we have been saying. So we will understand it clearly how this ego or the false I is just made up of the three gunas. It is constantly changing. So the real self is here and the three gunas are constantly overlapping, superimposed. And that creates sometimes good ego, bad ego, reactive ego, etc., etc. So when you ask the question, where is the real self? It comes from one of the three gunas. So definitely it is a satoguna. I know I'm feeling totally stressed out. First, let me relax. So obviously you are talking, ego is in the domain of the tamoguna. I want lot, hatred and jealousy. It is that I thought is always talking in terms of rajoguna. That is how we pick up and we understand people, where the person is. The person may ask a big question, but it is very small question. Mind is already in tamoguna. The question cannot be answered properly. So we avoid answering those questions. Or we just switch on, take a diversion. We talk of something else. This tamoguna, this movement, this functioning of the three gunas is known as Prakriti, it is also known as Maya, it is also known as delusion, it is also known as ignorance. They are always in movement. They are always changing. So these three gunas borrow some properties of the real self, and then the false I claims, I am the body. I want to live forever, because the real self property is living forever. Ignorance is there, whether you say ignorance, whether you say Maya, whether you say delusion, whether you say false I. We will understand, false I is used in certain state, Maya is used in certain state, in a certain situation, Prakriti is used in a. That is the only difference. No, I did not understand. You are the same. But daughter says my dad, my father. My father, reference. Reference is different. Your mother says my son. Your honey says my husband. So we wear the coat of a husband before the honey, father before the daughter. That is how these delusion, Maya, Prakriti, false I are defined. But there is only one truth, that is the real self. I'm just explaining you some of the context so that we can. Maya, now why? Now what is the knowledge? Forget about real self. What is the knowledge? Cause and effect. I discussed about it. I have to find out the cause and effect. Knowledge can falsify what is false. Knowledge cannot falsify what is the truth. knowledge. So what we are looking at, what can be falsified, falsify it, and what is left is the real self. Are you getting it? Let me explain differently. Falsify. Only the false can be falsified. And then we have understood clearly what is false. It exists in between the real and the unreal. So we have that understanding already present in the mind. If someone says this is TV, nobody is going to believe. By convention, it is a remote. If I say it is TV, it is screen, nobody is going to believe. Now, same thing happens to us also. So that is why we want to put into the intellect the knowledge that what is false and why it is false. The body is a false, but why it is false? It is constantly changing. It takes birth and it dies. But even after dying, it does not die. Matter is neither created nor destroyed. It is matter. Look at this body is a matter. How can you say this body has died? The body is in the form of a matter. So what is left? Only the name and the form. Name and the form of that matter has left, which I say death. Matter is always there. And that matter goes into the earth, into the soil. It creates a phosphorus cycle and the nitrogen cycle and the oxygen cycle. So that is why I started thinking that at least, and one scientist also later on I understood that we are not born out of only one parent. Their contribution is major. But this body carries the matter from more than 50 people who have died long ago. More than 50 people. They died, phosphorus cycle is created, then plants, then flesh if we are meat eaters, and we are eating that. After all, their DNA is also there in our body. So you see the cause and effect relationship at a very subtler level. Oh, then what happens? I don't have a duality. Who knows? I'm also the product of the guy whom I'm talking. I expand my awareness. You see the beautiful way to expand your awareness to feeling of oneness. At the same time, I falsify what can be false. So body is a false, the mind is a false, we have a wrong notion. Oh, so that is where this master is taken up. So we are, you see that the birth and the death is a continuous flow. And what about the birth and death? It's a constant change of the name and the form. Go a little deeper into the matter. Matter is constantly changing. That change is taking place because of the three gunas in the presence of the consciousness. Yesterday I was looking at the Discovery Channel, so in these Animal Planet. The mind is crazy. Mind started thinking why the alligator catches the prey in a different way, means why the alligator eats the food in one way and why I eat the food in a different way. Even if his body and my body is the same, made up of the same matter, there has to be some intelligence. So the intelligence or the consciousness in the alligator and me is the same. it manifested differently because of the limitations. He does not have a self-awareness, so he has to just swallow the entire food. If he catches the deer, so he has to swallow the entire deer. I have a choice. I can control my food, and that helps me to live in a higher awareness. Same thing with these birds and the tiger and the cow. Why the cow? How the cow chooses the grass as his food? Why he does not make? Why she does not make a mistake, and why the lion also does not make a mistake? We make a mistake and we grow horizontally. We grow horizontally. We don't follow. That is known as the dharma. We have to follow the dharma. It has nothing to do with the religion. Tiger follows the dharma. So we are more affected by the maya and the delusion than these animals. The only problem with the animals is that they are not self-conscious, they do not have a free intellect, they cannot have a choice. That is why they are animals. In Sanskrit, as you understand, that every word have been carefully chosen. So the entire animal kingdom, they have chosen the word pashu. Pashu. Sanskrit word pashu means bondage. They are bound. They don't have a freedom of choice. Every animal except the human being. So that is why we say either you live like a pashu, animal, don't make a choice. So when you don't make a choice, you oppose the knowledge. When you oppose the knowledge, then what happens? You keep lying on the bed and imagine if somebody will put the food into my mouth, put a $1 million into my account, you are opposing the knowledge. Tamoguna. Look at this, tamoguna. I'm just giving you a context today. Tamoguna, you see, tamoguna is hyperactive. Rajoguna, I have a sense of jealousy, ambitious. No, it does not mean that those who succeed in the material world in terms of the wealth, they have a higher level of Rajoguna. They're always active. Their mind is constantly thinking about the project and imagination. They fail in one, they do something else. Rajoguna is very active in that. They were the great scientists. Look at the Edison. He was not only a researcher, an inventor, but also a great businessman. His ATT company, AT&T, cellular phone company, belongs to that for generations. Rajoguna and the Satoguna. So it doesn't mean we continue to elevate the Satoguna. But as long as we are working with the Sato, Rajo and Tamoguna, we have to continue working. But as long as we are working with the three gunas, obviously we are under the influence of the Maya. And when we transcend the three guna, that is what we achieve the real self. What is the meaning of transcending the three guna? You falsify what is false. You simply falsify what is false. Does my real self change when I'm talking to you? No. When I'm angry? No. When I'm agitated? No. When I'm in tamoguna? No. When I'm in rajoguna? No. When I'm in satoguna? No. Then why you are talking that you increase your satoguna? Because you help to recognize the real self much clearer in satoguna. It is not possible in tamoguna. Because in tamoguna, more or less, we are like animals. We are like animals. Another point that that too is a good point. Yeah, that we will take up we are going very deep and we are breaking the notion what it means by inward moving mind and outward moving mind. Outward moving mind. Mind, sense organs, objects outside, likes and dislikes. Inward moving mind, objects are left, sense organs are left. In a deeper meditation, even the mind is left. That is how we understand inward moving mind and outward moving mind. So when we say emptiness, it's simply with reference to the entire world. In outer world, there are millions of objects. Inward moving mind, there is no object inside except me or I. Even that sense of I-ness is lost when there is a deeper state of meditation. So what happened actually? Now the inward moving mind means there is an absence of desire seeking happiness from the world outside. It can happen. I can still work. I can still work and think and speak and live in my life. So I'm just defining, and then we will define in another way. So the mind constantly remains inward moving. You just express yourself. Express in thought, speech, and action. The mind still is living within. You are not a speaker because that is the false I. It is the working of the three gunas in your speech, in your thought, in your action, in your professional life, in your social life. So only that consciousness remains pure consciousness, real self. You are, Gita says, you are a monk. Gita does not say that you have to wear the clothes to become a monk. You have to put a lot of dots here to become a monk. You are a monk. You are a monk. I told you before also, I argued with my master, Guruji. I said, then if you say that, then why you are wearing these orange colored clothes? He said, I ran away from my house at the age of the 12, and my Guruji initiated me and he gave me this orange colored coat, and since then I'm wearing. So if I leave now, it means still I have not reached to that state. It means I have still an objection to this cloth. So now I don't have any objection whether I wear it or I don't wear it. So that is why I am saying you have to move your mind to a state where there is no duality, no delusion. There is no meaning of inward moving mind and outward moving mind. You live into that state. Because mind, real self, is independent of the mind. Consciousness is independent of the mind. Consciousness is not the part, product, and property of the mind. So in the last point, we also have certain ideas to remove the false notion whether it is inward moving mind, consciousness is still there. Whether it is outward moving mind, consciousness is still there. Look at it. Consciousness is still present, independent, not carried away by the mind, not carried away by the sense organs, not carried away by the false eye. It is still independent. The way the space is independent, the way the water is independent of the waves. And then one day what happens, you simply recognize that consciousness, which is independent of the body, mind, intellect, ego, sense organs, and the five elements. That is what the Shankara says, Mano buddhir ahankara chittaninaha. Nacha shrotra jivhai, nacha ghrana netre, nacha vyoma bhumir natejo navai. I am none of this mind, memory, intellect, and ego. I am none of these five elements. I am none of the five sense organs and the five motor organs, whose who can only function in the presence of that consciousness, and that consciousness is I am. So with these two topics, we gave lot of context. So think and just contemplate and reflect more and more on this.